All right, welcome everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 8th of October, 2025, and this is the SIG Cloud Provider office hours. SIG Cloud Provider is a subproject of Kubernetes SIGs, and as such, we follow their meeting guidelines, which can basically be summarized as please treat everyone as you would expect to be treated, or explicitly so, please be kind to each other. And if you have a question, please raise your hand and I will call on you. So before we get into the regular agenda, I'll offer a chance for any sub-projects who might like to give an update, who haven't listed it here to do so. So we'll just take a minute, see if there's any sub-project updates people would like to highlight. Okay, not seeing any hands going up or people unmuting, so we will move on to our regular agenda then. Lucas, you've got the first item here with the KEP you've been working on, so please take it away.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up again in this meeting because the PRR freezes tomorrow. And I just wanted to ask if you think everything is done so far or if we are missing anything, because it's my first and so far, yeah, the only KEP I'm working on. So the process is always a bit fuzzy and I don't want to forget anything. So I just wanted to like raise it again and yeah, ask if I'm missing anything. I think otherwise that's it for this KEP.
So stupid question, and I should have been more on top of this, and I apologize. This is a cloud provider KEP specifically. This is our SIG.
Yes.
All right. I am sorry, but I will make sure I take a look at this today and do an overview of it. Joel, did you take a look at this as well?
Yeah, I've been going through it. I can't remember if I owe you a review at this point, though. I think I lost track of it.
So there was one minor point with respect to adding a metric for A/B testing.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the PR, I put in the comment we could maybe skip this for the alpha stage and also put this in the beta stage, because it would be nice to not miss the V135 milestone. So yeah, I guess we could, in theory, bring the metrics in better.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it would be good to be able to actually prove with data like that this is making a significant impact for people, which is obviously the motivation for the metric. But if we want to put that in slightly later in the cycle, I think that's fine.
So I will say I have done production readiness review, and they will go through and let you know if they think there's something missing as to whether or not they're going to approve it. I did take a quick glance at it, and I just did the milestone and lead opt-in just, to get the thing in there. But I did not go and carefully check to make sure you actually have everything that is required for the alpha stage for production readiness review. So, Lucas, you'll probably just want to look through it and make sure that you have some attempt at, the required metrics and that sort of thing, to Joel's point. Because that's the kind of thing they'll come back to you for. So you don't want to get booted out of the release because you're missing something that is on the required checklist. Probably the main thing is don't look at old KEPs, look at the current template, because they have changed over the years and even over the releases recently, what's required at each stage. Yeah, it has evolved over time. Yeah.
All right, perfect. I will do so. Thank you.
Not the new, you can look at newer KEPs or just look at the actual template. Because usually if you're working off of a past KEP, it might not have been seeded from the template with the current requirements, is the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to check this again. All right. I think that's it from my point.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. And I'll just say, like, it was looking pretty good to me. I didn't have any. I was pretty much +1. So yeah, I agree with what the others are saying here, Lucas. And I'd say, yeah, let's move forward. And if there's anything with the PR they don't like, or if anything comes up on review, from Walter or Joel later today, or later this week, we can address that. But yeah, I'm good to go forward.
Perfect.
Well, and I think, I hate to throw Joel and myself under the bus, but I think if we're going to have any feedback, it better be today. Otherwise, we're not going to have time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that, at least for myself, I will make sure that any responses I have are today. And hopefully Joel is going to give something similar.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate that, Walter. And Lucas, also, like, I know this is your first time going through this process and everything, and it's been a little laborious, but thank you as well for sticking with it and kind of putting this forward, because it will be helpful, I think.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to it.
Cool. Alrighty.
I do want to just add +1 to the good job, Lucas. And this is the sort of thing that you getting the experience of doing this is great for, your progress in the Kubernetes community. It's like, hey, you go back to your employer and you're like, I led this cup and this feature is actually in Kubernetes now. Like, that's huge. So
Yeah, writing an enhancement and getting it merged is like the highest difficulty.
Yeah, good point to start then.
Right. All right, cool. Any other comments on that, Kev?
I was just checking my notes, and I did LGTM this previously. It was just the metric that was outstanding, so I will double check that and leave another comment about what we've discussed.
Cool. Thank you, Joel. Yeah, I thought the last time you and I looked at it, we were in pretty good state, and I thought the PRR was all we had left to do, basically. But then the metrics question came up, and so
Yeah,
All right,
as long as we're on the same page with when we get to the beta stage, we'll add the metric. We'll make sure the metric can be used with the feature on and off, and then we can do A/B testing live with basically the same binary of right, how does it work with the old functionality? How does it work with the new one? And get that data. I think I'm happy.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, I agree.
Joel, I think you're right that data is very important, both in the beta stage and just in general. Maybe Lucas will want to double check what's actually required in metrics. Like in alpha, I think more is required now than used to be. So just maybe double check and make sure that we're compliant with the current requirements. Because maybe Joel's ideas can wait till beta, but maybe they can't. So you'll want to check and see what's required. Yeah.
Cool. Good points. All right. Moving on to the next topic. Bridget, you've put something in here about the KubeCon panel plannings. Please take it away.
Thank you all so much for working on this while I was out at my work Team Up event last week. Team Up was exciting, and it's always great to get together with people in person. And that just reminds me how great it will be to be on a stage with a number of the folks from this call talking. And we currently have 4 of us listed as being on this. And I was looking at this and I saw that you discussed possibly doing it as a panel last week. And I do think that's probably a good idea. I think Joel Almico and I, and Joel Walter and I have done the 3-person talk in the past. And I think the 4-person talk starts being really unwieldy. And when I look at the composition of what we have here, I'm thinking Microsoft, Red Hat, Google. Jesse, I think I saw you on the call, and I think I saw you in the notes from the last meeting raising your hand and saying you could volunteer as tribute as an Amazon person who could have these conversations. And that is certainly a possibility, but I think that we probably should get at least one of our Amazon buddies to join the party. We're allowed to have 5 people, and we could very easily, these are all like just copy pasted from the talk description that we wrote. I think this could make great panel discussions. So that's kind of where my thinking is at right now, unless somebody really wants to do the stand there with slides where there's 4 of us and we have like 3 slides each and talk. I think that what was discussed 2 weeks ago of the panic of this would probably look pretty good to just have an actual discussion about those topics. And I wrote a just kind of a little doc that Almico was just showing there, and it's linked and comments are enabled for anyone. So if people want to add comments, feel free to unmute and give us thoughts. Yeah.
Bridget, on the panel side, I don't know explicitly what the requirements are, but I know there are some like diversity and requirements and stuff like that.
Yep, it's fine.
I think one of them is around like end users.
I don't.
It may not account for this kind of panel.
I don't think that's required for maintainer sessions.
Okay.
I will check to see.
Check. Yeah.
Because as far as I understand it, maintainer sessions can just be a panel of the maintainers.
Fine. Cool.
but I'll check and make sure that that is not something that we are required to do. But yeah, I kind of, like I said, I just kind of sketched out topics that we can cover. And I have a lot of panel moderating and podcast hosting experience, and I'm happy to run this as a full participant. So I don't need to grab another Microsoft person and pull them in. I will, you know, yeah. So unless we have any strong objections, Walter, I want to hear your thoughts about how we run this.
Maybe a little less how we run it and what we want to cover. So do we have sets of things? I mean,
Yeah,
I know there was Crow incoming. There is what's going to go on with testing and, reviving tests, El Mico's favorite, how we're going to revive the tests we were forced to kill.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Can we click, Elmiko, can you click on the link again? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is literally just like the little outline I made based on the description that we wrote. But you see how we can kind of, okay, cool, maybe add the testing thing here or add something else. So we can add and subtract and multiply and divide from this, but this is the main topics that were in the description that we wrote. And I will share this with edit rights. I did it right before this meeting. So, I didn't share it with edit rights to everyone. So right now it's just comment everyone, but I will share it to the panelists with edit rights. Anything else from you, Walter? Because
no, I'm still contemplating. Sorry, I'm buying myself some thinking time. I mean, partly I think making sure that we cover the stuff we want to cover. I mean, I think and then trying to make value to the audience. And then do you have a sort of then I guess what are our format options? I mean, is it sort of a ask a question, walk down the line asking people or
really works better if we pre-plan. We pre-plan the topics we're going to talk about, and we pre-plan, just like a well-planned podcast, you pre-plan who each topic is going to be, and so then, for example, say you and Joel have the strongest opinions on one specific one, go ahead and toss a comment on the doc and be like, oh, I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about this, and so then we'll kind of bin packet according to what people want to talk about, and then I'll curate and guide the entire conversation so that way everyone talks about the stuff that's important to them that they can really bring some high value conversation to. And we still have a natural back and forth where I don't want to do that stilted thing where it's like, question 2, each panelist, please answer. We're not going to do that. We're going to do a conversation, assuming this is what people like.
So yeah, kind of following up on what Walter said, I have like I like the idea of a panel discussion. And yeah, I guess that's kind of the question. Do we want to, how much like kind of audience participation do we want to have? Because I love the idea of us kind of answering, some canned questions, but then I would love if we have a decent audience, and this doesn't always work out for us, but if we have a decent audience, I would love for us to be able to like kind of pivot and open the floor up to like more general questions from, maybe we could keep on some topical areas, but then open up questions from the audience or something.
I like the idea of having audience seated questions. We are in the very last time slot of the conference, so we may be more aiming our questions or our answers at the YouTube audience. But one thing the reason, by the way, that I put this here in this meeting is so that, Lucas and everyone else who's interested comes to this meeting and is on this call can drop some questions in there. Like, I would love to precede some questions from our active community such that we're addressing the stuff people care about. Sometimes if you ask people in the audience for a question, you get somebody who wants to talk about their specific use case or their specific bug or something that's really relevant to them, but maybe not to the entire audience. Whereas like, I feel like the most active community members, like say people who are authoring KEPs in this space, will have comments and or questions that they really want to, make sure we cover. So, yeah.
So I have one other suggestion, and it's sort of a weird one, but I love the conversation. I would say that one of our SIG's strengths, as weird as this is to say,
Mhm.
is that we have worked out how to work together. Right? I mean, we've got Amazon, Red Hat, IBM, Google, Microsoft, Hetzner in the room, and we're working together. We don't always agree, but in fact, I think the fact that we can agree or disagree agreeably is to some degree our special power. And I've seen it does not always work everywhere else. And I think then we can demonstrate that to some degree by saying, maybe rather than just say one question, one responder, maybe where possible, we should try to show one question, two responders.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Like, instead of I ask a question and then only Walter, the predetermined person, answers it and everyone else sits there and kind of looks frustrated. No, no, no. Like, we'll get the questions going. Walter will answer. Maybe we know that Almika also has an opinion on that one. But if Joel also decides, I'm going to jump in here, that's cool.
I'm cool with Joel also, but I think the thing I'm saying is let's plan for a minimum of two responders.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we want to make this conversational. And that's what I mean by that, is people with opinions talking to each other, not people answering prescriptive questions. That's like you prep seed. This is, kind of the behind the scenes hosting of panels, podcasts, etc. You prep kind of a general talk track series of questions, stuff that's modular enough so that, say you get really derailed, there's maybe a segment you can completely drop. And there are some grace notes. You start with something where, like in this particular example, I started with like, ooh, where are we better together? Where are we working well together? Where are these, coordination between providers making the ecosystem better? Like that's kind of a place to start. Then you can kind of get into some crunchy, low-level KRM layer, cross provider building, that sort of building blocks, that sort of thing. I think there's a great, crow through line through a lot of that. And then, of course, whatever we end up with, timeline wise, then I also make sure that everybody has like a grace note at the end to say, the future, what are you the most excited about? Or what do you want people to focus on? And so you kind of let everyone land on, they make their closing statement. Yeah, there's a whole, you've seen these done well and you've seen these done poorly. I run them well.
I look forward to it. All right, so we
Oh,
covered a
the
lot here.
ecos-
Go ahead.
The
sorry.
ecosystem runs the gamut. I was just going to say the ecosystem runs the gamut. I don't know that I've seen you do the things on the bad side of it. Just for the record, I've seen you run a lot of things, and I don't think they're bad. But yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not saying I run them badly. I'm
Oh
saying
yeah.
we've
The
all seen
gamut is
many
broad. So I was in the kitchen, so I'm back, and just to mirror what I said in the chat, I think somebody put in the notes. I'm happy to participate. If you all think I'm qualified to do so, happy to be there. I just double checked my flight is at 8 p.m. so I can make it. And yeah, happy to be. And I also, I work with the Node Runtime team, and I work with the folks that do a lot of this work. So I've been talking internally about how we could, show up in like in this call, but also, in Slack channels and at the conference. So yeah, happy to do that.
Love it. Okay, I'll coordinate with you separately, Jesse. I'll need you to just DM me your the email address you use with CNCF stuff. Because you know how things are. You don't want CNCF to make a million new accounts for you on all their platforms. It's terrible.
Got it.
Raise your hand if you have not had CNCF merge at least 2 to 3 accounts that they've made for you, and you're like, no, I just need the one. Yeah, cool. Okay. Anyway, I feel like I've dominated way too much of this conversation here, so I'll just say, please do go, whether you're a panelist or you're not a panelist, please do go put thoughts and comments into that, document, because that's how we make sure that this represents what the community wants to hear. All right. And then I think, Elmiko, I'm going to throw it back to you and say, I saw while I was out that you had an exciting discussion about topology awareness. And I wonder if you have more that you wanted to cover about that.
I actually do. Thank you for adding that to the agenda. Thank you for your curiosity. Yeah, we had a really cool discussion last time because someone had started to ping me about this topology awareness stuff, and it actually, a lot of this was coming from communities that are doing, starting to do like kind of LLM workload style stuff and figure out how these workloads kind of interact with Kubernetes in the best way possible. And, like the Q community is looking into this, and I think the K-serving community is looking into this as well. There's a lot of communities looking into this. And so there's been this push to say, okay, we have like zone and regional style topology awareness in Kubernetes now, but how can we push further to get to some level of topology awareness that's like kind of a network topology awareness, like not to name names, but I will, like AWS and Google have both started to release features in their public cloud offerings that allow the Kubernetes, the managed Kubernetes services to gain these like, cabinet level or rack level specifications about where their topology is and everything. And so, this becomes important because, and, this is something we've seen, I think, in machine learning for, decades at this point, but, being able to say, I would like to run this job on a node that is co-located with the storage in the same rack or something. That can be very important because inter-rack communications can often be slower than intra-rack communications. And so you can build very fast networks on the same rack, but then to go to another rack might slow down the communication. So this becomes important, especially with the workloads we're seeing today on, like ML, machine learning edge stuff and whatnot. So I started to dig into this, and I think we had a great conversation, and we kind of thought, okay, yeah, someone reached out to me and said, where is the best place for these things to be put? And I was like, well, it makes sense that the cloud controller managers would probably be the most efficient place to be adding these labels because they're already being added in other places. But when I started to dig in deeper to the conversations that have already been had around this topic, there's been a lot of discussion, especially from the DRA space, the dynamic resource allocation. Like there's been a lot of talk there because it is also important in those areas as well. And so there had been a proposed cap, and I think we linked to it in our previous discussion. Yeah, this cap here. There had been a proposed cap from a while ago, and it fell off because it seemed like the parties involved were never able to come to an agreement about like, is there a standardized way to have these labels? Because every cloud was kind of doing it differently. That ultimately led me to a discussion and a document that John Belamaric had put together, and I think I linked it down here as well. No, did I? I thought I went back and yeah, did I? I don't, maybe I didn't. I'll have to find it again. But John had linked me a document, and there's like a huge discussion that's been happening about this from the DRA perspective as well. So I think right now we probably need to, we're probably going to need to come together in some way where we're going to need to get more like cross SIG kind of energy going here, because it sounds like right now, I think where this has stopped is kind of like at the DRA, side of things. So there is like a lot that can be done here. I think it's going to require more getting up to speed time. And this is the document I was talking about before, and I will put a link into the notes now.
Yeah, I did make a couple of small notes. And I know that Jack Francis is very active in the DRA space too. So I'm not sure if this is one where, do you think we need, I hesitate to say it, yet another working group? Like, do we need another working group, a cross-seg working group, or
Maybe.
just,
I guess like part of it we need to figure out like what is going to happen here. And I'm still reading through this and trying to understand all of it. But like, this kind of here gets to part of the issue right now. Like, like for example, and I'm not picking on GKE, this just happened to come up. GKE uses like these identifiers, right? And so I think not what we're finding is that those don't fit for everyone, right? So there's been a lot of discussion around how do we standardize on this part here? What can we do to standardize around that? And I'm not sure that it's been solved yet, but I think joining in on this effort is where we probably want to be. And we probably want to understand, is there something that could be done from the cloud provider side to help this? Because the way I look at it, right now, if there's no standard, it's like it would be perfectly in spec for cloud provider GCP, to be adding these. That would help everybody out, right? And there's an AWS equivalent and whatnot. And the question is there a way to standardize this stuff? Yeah, Walter, please.
I mean, not to get myself in too much trouble. So I'm looking through as you're paging down, I was looking through the names of all of the people in the comments and realizing that they are all Googlers and most of them are in my or Lilith's office. So I mean, getting myself in a lot of trouble. Maybe given that everything here says Google, it's not a surprise, but I wonder if part of the problem here is that there's not enough cloud providers in this document.
Yeah, I think there's not enough cloud providers in this space yet, probably, right? Because it seemed like, from what I could tell of what's available in public, AWS and, really EKS and GKE are offering this as part of the service now, and they've documented it in both of their private docs. And of course, they're using, separate labels and annotations for this stuff, or less separate labels. But yeah, I agree with you. There needs to be more opinion, more, we need to figure out how to make this work for everybody, basically.
So, I mean, there's a couple of ways I can think about going about this, but like Lilith is on this call, is working now as part of cloud provider. I am wondering if what we really need to do is just I'm suggesting Lilith might be a good point of contact, not so much as anything else. But if we could get someone from Amazon, from Microsoft, from IBM to come in, ask questions of Lilith, give feedback, maybe what we can then do is say, hey, yeah, exactly. Kind of what Jesse's just put into chat is, here are ours, and then let's put together a correspondence table. I can also, I think I can get Lilith access to the last time we went successfully through this exercise, which was failure zones. And maybe we can get a group of people to actually build what sort of our cloud provider's perspective on what these should be and help DRA with that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And Jesse, thank you for linking that in the chat. You can see, though, from what's linked in chat, right? Like these, already there's a little bit of difference in the way the two providers have decided to kind of specify things. And I presume that's because it made sense for how they were doing things. I'm not going to question those design decisions. But yeah, then the next part of this is there a way to get to a standard? And my interpretation of what I read out of this previous enhancement was that they had not found a way to reach that standardization, right? Because and this was a little bit older. This was from 10 months ago or whatever, 11 months ago. But yeah, this discussion here was very interesting, and it basically just kind of circled back, and and it's a lot of the same people from the other one, but it was very difficult to ultimately arrive on. And even you see here's Jack in there as well. All of our friends are in here talking, but they never seem to come up with a resolution to this. They couldn't actually agree in the end on what it would look like, right? Even you see here's another example of just a great way these things are expressed differently.
Well, maybe the answer is we have to acknowledge they are expressed differently. I mean, maybe some of these have a correspondence in all cloud providers, and some of them only exist in others, and that what we need is, on top of everything else, is just a way to say which of these annotations do you support?
Right. No, exactly. The way I was looking at this, and I'm, it may be overly naive of me or whatever, but it's at a first level, even if we can't standardize all this, even if every cloud provider has some different way of looking at these things, we should be promoting the cloud controller managers to be adding this information because it helps everything else in the Kubernetes ecosystem, right? I mean, like we shouldn't be we definitely shouldn't be like restricting it, and I don't think we are. But I think we could be doing more to get involved and like promote the activity, right? So yeah, I was gonna. This was something that Jesse brought up here. Jesse, did you want to talk to this?
I was just kind of backfilling my nodding.
Okay, cool.
Walter, is your hand still up? Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to drop that in. That back when we had to do this for DRA support, we just sort of looked at that issue and went, okay, this is kind of sort of the right direction. We had a ton of labels, so we could always just also standardize for backward compatibility, leave these in place, and then go with it. So it'd be easy for us to participate here. And like I said, I just side bin pinged my colleagues to see if they're involved in this or not.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Like, let me go back to the right note here.
I have one question. Like, sometime back, I remember, like, I remember, like, we added this feature, or like, in the cloud provider where the specific cloud provider can add additional labels to the nodes. I was just trying to like, how would that fit with the standardization part? Like, because I think
Right.
more are like added to make sure that okay, because different cloud providers has different kind of nomenclatures how they want to use the labels. So there was a generic feature added in the cloud provider library to ask, as part of the node update at this registration and everything, to see what are the additional labels which should be added to the node object.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's where it becomes difficult, right? Is that like if we don't standardize, if we have no standard, then every cloud provider is just free to put whatever labels they want to on the nodes, right? That's just that's what they do, right? And then the cloud provider themselves are responsible for any sort of upgrade logic or conversion that needs to happen. Um, on the other hand, if we can come up with a standard way to do this, then we can kind of put the standard into the cloud provider framework, and we can make it easier for the individual cloud controllers then to kind of work with the standard. And I think in my mind, the ultimate end goal of having something like a standard would be so that we could, we like the long tent pole here is like enabling a project like Q, right? Which is uh, this job queuing project that that's being very popular right now with like the LLM community and everything. Like, if we don't have a standard, then a project like Q would have to then have some sort of like, okay, if you're on this provider, you need to use these things, you need to look for these labels. If you're on that provider. So being able to empower projects like Q and, probably Kubeflow and, other things would be the ultimate goal. I think would be one of the ultimate outcomes of being able to standardize. I'm not sure if we, like there needs to be more discussion to make that standardization happen.
Got it. Understand. This is more like both would be in conjunction. Like we would want to have some standardized things such that at least the basic or the important features would work using the same labels across all the different cloud providers.
Right.
But we would still provide option for individual providers to have, if they want to add some additional labels for some other custom feature specific to their cloud.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, always the cloud provider should feel free to add their custom labels, right? Like I would encourage cloud providers to add their custom labels in the cloud controller managers if that's what's needed on their cloud, because that's creating the best experience. But if we can standardize, we'll be able to empower parts of the Kubernetes community that are currently kind of struggling with these things.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks.
And then I like what Jesse was saying too. Like, even if we standardize on something going forward, the backward compatibility can still be there, right? Like you can still have the old labels as long as we're migrating towards the new labels.
Yeah, I think that should be. I won't say like easy, but like I think it should be okay to get that thing in the library itself, or it is in the cloud providers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's up to the cloud provider, right? Like it, because in my
Yeah,
mind,
exactly.
this goes back to kind of what something Walter said, in previous meetings about the notion of like distributions of Kubernetes or whatever, right? Like now we're starting to get into the real, like, the details where it's like, okay, if cloud provider A has all these features for doing like rack level kind of labeling and cloud provider B does not have those things, when we start to look at distributions of Kubernetes, then now we can start to talk about like there's kind of like a matrix of features almost. And when we think about, going even higher level with like workloads and whatnot. Now we could have people saying, okay, I have a workload I would like to take to Kubernetes. Which distributions of Kubernetes enable the style of workloads that I want? I mean, there's like a whole chain of events that could come out of this, I think. Sorry, I'm just on my soapbox,
But it's an exciting soapbox.
All right. So does anyone else have questions or comments about this? Or Bridget, I guess does that bring you up to speed, I guess?
Definitely. Thank you so much for going back over it, but also adding further discussion, which I think is important.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic, and I think it's like one of these things where when my colleague who was interested in this reached out to me, he was like, "Where should this stuff come from?" And I'm like, "It should absolutely come from the cloud controllers, right?" And so I'm like, "How did we miss this conversation?" Because we should definitely be involved, I think. Okie doke. Any other questions or comments on that one? Alrighty. So let's go and check our triage issues to see if there's anything new that we need to look at. Oh, we're in good shape. The last one's from May 2024, and it's the old hybrid cloud native support. I don't know if this one will ever get triaged or not, but
I think we should probably go through and just clean out stuff that got bounced out of triaged. But I don't know that I have the energy to do that today. And we had some people drop off. So maybe one of these upcoming dates that we have like low topic numbers. We
you
just
want to look at like
just want to go through and see which ones we want to, okay, we will schedule this for next year, or we're just going to close this and not do it, if
okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some of these probably like this one here looks interesting as like a problem. And Joel reported it too. Joel, is this problem still happening?
Yeah, this is still an issue.
Okay, so like, here we should probably like, yeah, get some investigation on this then, right?
When I last looked at this, I was told this is a harder problem than you think it is, and it eventually fell off my radar and I didn't get back to it. I think the issue really was that we were relatively confident it was okay for our controller manager, but we were pretty confident it was not okay for the general, like Cube controller manager. And there was a want to kind of do it all in one go.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, good problem there. Definitely interesting to solve. This kind of gets into something that Walter and I were talking about a while ago too. And now that I'm thinking about it again, like there is this notion of kind of like getting a kind of a controller refactor so that we could have like the cloud provider, the cloud controllers and like the kube controllers using some of like more similar mechanisms than they are now. And I wonder if that wouldn't also add into like kind of fixing the issue with like the leader election as well. Okay, but yeah, Bridget, I think you're right. Like on a day when we have fewer topics, we could probably come back and go through those in greater detail. I would like to look at the test grid just to make sure we're doing okay here.
Test grid's very timely. Thanks.
Ooh, that's not looking good. What is going on here? Okay, so it looks like we're probably going to need some investigation on this. Wonder what's going on. Okay, so there's some problem deploying the cluster, it looks like. But did we hit quota issues or what?
Failed to create firewall rule.
Yeah, that sounds like
maybe I did something in a version. Do we not have a version pin? So then we're hitting something where we don't have the right options anymore. if you scroll back up, there was something where it was complaining about not having the right options, like must specify either dash dash image or dash dash image dash family when specifying dash dash image dash project.
Yeah, probably something. Yeah, something has changed with that command line or something maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
So these are like the fragile part of the test where it's using a script to run like G Cloud or something, and it probably the G Cloud has changed and needs to have, you know, one of these flags or something, or we need to update the version of G Cloud or whatever that's being used. The question is, had someone made a... All right, I can follow up and post a question in the test info channel to see if anyone's created an issue for this yet. Although it seems like perhaps they fixed it, so maybe it's just not a big deal anymore.
Maybe. Also, would it only affect us? You would kind of think it would affect other tests.
You would think so, yeah. I don't know why none of these were running, but maybe they were blocking that. All right, I can follow up and ask a couple questions, but it seems like if there's nothing going on or if they fixed it, then I guess we're in good shape. Okay, so I guess that kind of brings us to the end of our agenda. Anybody have anything they want to add before we go here? Going once, going twice. All right, thanks everyone for coming out, and I guess we'll see you again in 2 weeks, and that'll probably be our last one before KubeCon, I guess, or maybe we'll have one more. We'll see. All right, thanks everybody.
Bye.